I'm the chair of the local organising committee for TASA. So we're hosting the event, which is owned or an event of the International Sociological Association. And just at the beginning of the event, beginning of the training today, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for volunteering. We're welcoming the world's sociologists to Australia, and in many ways, you're going to be the face of TASA and Australian sociology. So I really wanted to thank you for being willing to put in some time, and also to say it's wonderful that you'll all be there. I recognize that registration is expensive for this event as well. And through this scheme, some early career and not so early career people can come along and be part of it, but also share their work. My experience is it's often people who aren't in the middle of a standard academic career, whether they're at the beginning or doing something outside universities, or even active sociologists post-retirement that are doing the most interesting research. And I'm just so glad you'll all get to be there, as well as welcoming our visitors to Melbourne and helping folk out to be part of the event too, and share your own sociology. So thank you again for volunteering. And now I'll hand back to Sally, and you can hear some more about what's going to be involved.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to actually hand you straight over to Tracy so we can get stuck into it. This is Tracy from Confex, who is the professional conference organizer that ISA is working with. Thank you, Tracy, for running this session.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And a special thanks for everyone who is volunteering to help out on the technical side at this fully hybrid meeting that's coming up very soon here. So I'm going to go over a few things about our presentation management and recording system and how it works and what's expected of you in the rooms in terms of working our system, as well as utilizing the Zoom aspect of it. So the first things that I will ask everyone to do when they go into the session rooms. Now, I know in the mornings, we're going to have a little bit more time. I would like everyone that is attending or volunteering a morning session to arrive to their session 30 minutes prior to the session start time. So what I would like you to do is go through each presentation that's in your session and just click on it. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. You're just going to launch each file and make sure that it opens correctly. There are a couple of things that can cause it not to open correctly. For instance, if somebody has their PowerPoint set in read-only format, then it's not going to open correctly, and we'll need to get a hold of the presenter and have them unlock that and change it. There's also instances where presenters use kind of squirrely characters in naming their PowerPoint files. And therefore, our presentation management system kind of gets hung up on, if they have too many underscores or special characters combined with that. Now, if you are in a session that just has a 10-minute break before the next session, and you don't have time to run through those presentation files, because let's say the prior session ran over a little bit, and now we literally just have enough time to start the Zoom and get going, then make that your priority. But if you have time to just quickly run through the presentations, and again, I'll show it to you in a second, it literally just takes a couple of seconds per file. And if you find an issue if you get a pop-up message that says Podium can't launch this file, the best thing to do would be, since you won't have time yourself to try and figure out why, is it read only? Is it the special character? Once you join the Zoom on your personal device, you're going to have access to our Confex virtual tech in the participant panel. You will chat them and say, hey, I've just run across a file that is having trouble loading in the system. This is the person's last name. This is the session I'm in. They will reach out to us. We will fix that file in the speaker ready room, which is going to be networked to all of the meeting rooms, so that by the time it's time to launch their presentation, we will, if not have it fixed already, have a solution for you. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so that's going to be first and foremost is launching presentations and testing those out if you have time. Okay, let me go ahead and show you what I have here in my, oops, sorry. Okay, so the first couple of things that we were going to go over is testing the presentations. That's if you can do it in the morning, right? And for pre-recorded presentations, those will be loaded just like any other file, but they will be listed whether it's a pre-recorded or a remote presenter. So if you see in your session display that it says pre-recorded, out of all of them, you should test that one first and make sure that it plays and that you can hear sound in the room. Remote presenters are going to be presenting from their own laptop from their house, so you don't have to worry about playing a presentation for them. And our Convex virtual techs will be working with that remote presenter to test their screen share in a breakout room while we're waiting to start the session. You can find out who your remote presenters are by looking at the meeting app. And I suggest that you have the meeting app on your phone, and you can use the meeting app to join the sessions. 20 minutes before the session begins, a Join Now button will appear next to that session name on the meeting app. And you can simply use that to join the Zoom on your own personal device, as well as gather any information about any remote presenters that may be present in your session. So first, I'm going to show you just simply how to launch each presentation to ensure it opens. You're literally just going to click on the presentation title. You'll see the presentation title here. To the left of the presentation title is the author's last name. And as you can see in blue letters here, it says whether this is a remote presenter or whether this is a pre-recorded presentation that will be played on site. So you click on the presentation title, a splash page comes up that tells you to please wait while your presentation is loading. And if you look in the top left corner, you see the number 1 and it counts down. It usually takes about 3 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds tops for the presentation to load. And then here's your presentation. If it loads automatically, if you see the first slide, you know that there's not going to be any problems loading it. It's going to be just fine. To get out of it and check your next presentation, you're just going to click Escape. It brings you to this white screen here, where now all you have to do is click Next Presentation. And again, it will just open the first slide, you hit Escape, it brings you back to this white screen, and so on and so forth. And you just keep clicking Next Presentation. Now, if someone has not loaded their presentation yet, when you click Next Presentation, it's going to return you to the session display, which you can also do by clicking these words up here, Return to Session Display. So if there's nothing loaded, it'll return you to the session display automatically, and then you can just open the next one that is loaded. And I'll show you what that looks like when a presentation is not loaded. Okay, but first we're going to go through your Zoom options and the configurations that you must set as soon as you are finished opening all of the files and ensuring that they can open if you have time. You will notice this is our session display. You have the time and date at the top, the title of the session, presentation titles, and authors' last names to the left of the presentation titles. At the bottom, there's going to be a blue button that says Join Zoom. As soon as you click on Join Zoom, you're going to get a message telling you that the meeting is being recorded. You'll click Continue. Next, you're going to click the up arrow next to the chat icon and just click on it so it deselects show chat previews. Okay. At that time, the Convex Virtual Tech may be turning on live transcriptions for everyone, and you may see this message come across the screen that tells you that live transcription has been enabled. You want to click the X to make that message go away. I know it sounds silly, but you'd be surprised at how many people just leave the message up on the screen. And we don't want to do that because it's going to block content on the slides. It's distracting, and it's going to go in their recording as well. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so once we've deselected chat preview, we've clicked on the X to dismiss the live transcription enabled message. Then we're going to click share screen. Once you click share screen, it's going to move your, what they call the floating meeting toolbar, to the top of the screen. Once it moves to the top of the screen, you're going to turn on the camera, okay, by just clicking on the start video icon. Then you're going to go over to the more button, click on more. It'll bring you a drop-down menu, and you're going to choose hide video panel. If you don't do this, then what happens is you get the film strip of everybody on the side of the screen when the camera's on. So that's why we hide video panel. The next thing that we're going to do under the more option, now once you choose something in the more option, the drop-down menu goes away and you have to click more again if there's something else that you want to do in that drop-down menu. And we do. We want to click on more, and we want to choose share sound, so that if we are playing a pre-recorded presentation video, then our virtual audience will be able to hear it. Now, there have been, I will tell you right now, there have been some instances with Zoom where even when you click share sound, the virtual audience still cannot hear the video playing. I would say this happens 5% of the time, but don't be surprised, if it happens to you. I'm just giving you a preface. But again, only 5% of the time. But let's make sure we click share sound so we can eliminate that possibility of it not happening for sure. Okay, and then we are going to keep the mic muted until we start the session. You can leave the camera on, but please leave the mic muted, because if it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, however much time you have before your session starts. Now, in the morning, you're only going to have that much time. Throughout the day, of course, we're just going to have a few minutes. But you really don't want the virtual audience hearing all of the side conversations that are happening at the lectern and at the head table. So let's leave it muted until you start the session. You're going to go back over to the More button and choose Hide Floating Meeting Controls. That's going to make this meeting control toolbar completely disappear. Unfortunately, there are some glitches with Zoom where if you do not hide it, the floating meeting toolbar will not always stay floated to the top. It will return. And again, that can hide slide content, and it will show up in our recording. So we always want to be aware of hiding the floating meeting controls. Next, we're going to run a walk and loop. It's 2 slides. One of them is acknowledgement of country, and then the second one is social media. If you click on this film strip at the bottom of the session display, it's going to open those slides. Now, those slides are going to be set to a timer, but they're also going to be set so that you can advance on click, right? So we're going to have them play. Here's the acknowledgement of country. This will maybe stay on the screen for about 15 seconds, about as long as it would take to read through it. And then the social media slide, it'll go directly to the next. Oops. Yay. Okay, sorry about that. See where I am here. It did not advance for me. I apologize. Okay, so we're at the social media slide. We're just letting this run while people are entering the room. Once they enter the room and the moderator would like to get started. Now we need to unmute the Zoom controls, right? Now, be aware that if you hit escape once, it's going to take you out of a PowerPoint. If you hit escape twice, we've remapped the keys purposely for this. If you hit escape twice, it will return your floating meeting toolbar. We don't necessarily need to do that. You can simply click Alt-A, and that will unmute your microphone. And the camera's already on, so we can just continue through there. But before you begin the session, after you get your Zoom session started on the lectern, now you want to start the Zoom session on your own device. So you're going to go to your own device. You're going to have the meeting app open. You're going to look for the Join Now button that will be showing up 20 minutes before the session starts next to your session. You'll click that Join Now button. It's going to bring you right into Zoom. I know there's been some instructions for you to bring headphones. That is helpful so that you can hear what the virtual audience hears. If you do not have headphones, please do not join computer audio. We don't want any feedback. You also want to rename yourself, again, on the Zoom participant panel on your own device. You want to rename yourself to volunteer and then the room number. At the MCEC, the room numbers are very simple: 101, 102, 103. So it's just going to be volunteer 101. No hashtag, no name room, just volunteer 101, volunteer 203, whatever it is. Now, there are 3 rooms that have longer names: plenary 1, plenary 2, and plenary 3. Those can simply be volunteer plen 1, volunteer plen 2, or volunteer plen 3. Now, I would tell you to name yourself volunteer P1, P2, P3, but unfortunately, over at the Crown, we have rooms that are actually named P1, P2, and P3. So for plenary, it would be volunteer plen 1, volunteer plen 2, volunteer plen 3. It's really important that you keep your chat panel open. And honestly, if you have something besides a smartphone or an iPhone, I highly recommend, we really strongly encourage you to bring a laptop or an iPad if you do have something besides just a phone, because you're going to be able to see a whole lot more, obviously, in a Zoom meeting on a bigger device, instead of having to switch back and forth between a participant panel and a camera view, or a chat panel and a camera view, which is something you'd have to do on a phone. You're going to be utilizing the chat panel because this is how the Confex virtual tech support, who's hosting the meeting and dealing with any technical issues in the Zoom and working with our remote presenters, that's how they're going to communicate with you, and that's how you're going to communicate with them. So you'll need to rename yourself to volunteer so that they see you right away. They know that there's somebody available for them to reach out to in case there's an issue in the room. They may be reaching out to you in the chat and saying, volunteer 201, we don't have any sound in the room. Oops, we forgot to unmute. Let's do that. Or they may be reaching out to you and saying, hey, we have this really strange buzz coming through the microphone. Could you do something about this, please? And or they may ask you, do you hear it on site? And some of the things you may not be able to resolve on your own. And that's when they're going to reach out to us on a completely different platform, where they're going to say, on-site Tracy, can you please go to room 203? There's some sort of weird noise coming from the microphone, or whatever it may be. But we need to have those lines of communication open at all times, which means you need to be watching that chat panel for the communication. Sorry to harp on it, but it is one of the most important parts of this job. being accessible. Okay, so beginning the session. When the moderator is ready to begin reading the acknowledgement of country slide from the walk-in loop, they will use the arrow keys to advance to that slide. Now, this loop is going to be set on a timer so that when we're running it as people are walking in the room, nobody has to do anything. It's just going to run itself, right? But it's also going to be set to advance on click. So if the moderator gets up, or the chair, I apologize, the chair gets up to the lectern and is ready to start reading the acknowledgement of country slide. If it's on the acknowledgement of country slide, I really recommend just advancing to the social media slide and advancing once again back to that acknowledgement of country slide, because as soon as they click on it, it's going to be on a timer. We're probably going to set it around somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds. But they want to be able to have that full time frame to read from top to bottom. If you can all sort of understand where I'm coming from. Whereas if they were ready to read it, they see it on the screen, maybe it's already been on the screen for 10 seconds and now they're only going to have 5 seconds left. So they sort of just want to restart that timer, if you got my gist. Okay, so once they've read their acknowledgements, they're going to escape just once, because if they hit escape twice, it's going to bring back that floating meeting toolbar and you'll need to go up there and hide it again. At any time that floating meeting toolbar comes up, for whatever reason, because the chair accidentally hits escape twice, please go up and resolve that issue. Because again, the floating meeting toolbar is going to hide content on the slide and be in the recording. So it's just a matter of click on that more in the floating meeting toolbar and go down to the drop down and choose hide floating meeting controls. But if they just click escape once to get out of the walk-in loop, it brings you to the session display. And to get started, all they're going to do is click on the presentation title. They get the splash page where it says, please wait while your presentation is loading. It takes about 3 or 4 seconds. And now you have your presentation on the screen. The presenter will use the arrow keys to advance through the slide presentation. When they get to the end, they can click escape if they're in a PDF. If they're in a PowerPoint, if they just keep escaping to the end, it's still going to bring you to the white screen. This is what we call the white screen, as I showed you before. So if it's an on-site presenter or it's a pre-recorded presentation, you're just going to click next presentation. You don't have to return to the session display. If there is a remote presenter, and it would say that here under next presentation, it would say remote, you do want to return to the session display, and you will have to click escape again to bring back the floating meeting toolbar and click stop share so that the remote presenter can now share their screen. I do want to say that I know this probably feels like a lot at this point, but I am going to share this whole entire presentation with you when we're finished with it, as well as a cheat sheet that you'll be able to have access to digitally when I share it with you. But there'll also be a piece of paper with this cheat sheet at every lectern that you can refer to every time you walk in the room. Okay, so continuing on, we're going through the next presentation. If there's a remote presenter, you'll need to go to return to session display, bring the toolbar back, and stop your share. Okay, this is bringing the toolbar back. There's the stop share button. Do not mute the mic or stop the video when there is a remote presenter. All of the audio in all of the meeting rooms are set with what we call a mix minus feed, which prohibits any, it doesn't prohibit, it creates so that there will be no feedback loop. Okay, so we've already made arrangements so that there will be no feedback in the room. The reason I'm asking you not to mute the mic or stop the video is because invariably when you get to the on-site presenter, you will forget to unmute that mic and turn the camera back on. I've seen it happen time and time again. And the worst thing that you have to do is interrupt that presenter because someone from the virtual audience has chatted our virtual tech support and said, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. And what happens is we either have to interrupt the presenter who's already started their presentation and now they're flustered and more stressed than they started. Or we have to wait until they're finished and the virtual audience misses that presentation until the recording is posted online. So I recommend not muting the mic or stopping the video. What this does mean though, and I've seen this happen before, is when there's a remote presenter giving a presentation, people who are sitting at the head table in front of microphones sometimes feel that, oh, maybe this is a good time to chat about whatever's going on in the session. All of those microphones are connected to the Zoom mic. So if we leave that mic open, they're going to be able to hear, the virtual audience will hear any conversation that happens at the head table. So just because there's no one standing at the lectern and we're having a presentation remotely doesn't mean that we can't still be heard, but it is safer to leave it open than to forget and have to interrupt the presenter. Okay, at the end of the session, you're going to escape out of the current presentation and then click Return to Session Display. You'll have to click Escape again to return your floating meeting toolbar, then select Stop Share and then Leave Meeting. And you also want to make sure that you leave the meeting on your device as well. Okay, and then for the next volunteer, you'll want to advance to the next session. And you do that simply by clicking the arrow key, next to the date and time. And it will take you to the next session. If you keep clicking on that arrow key, it'll take you through all the sessions throughout the entire day. Okay, for volunteers that will be ending a session at the end of the day, what we would like to ask you to do as soon as that session is over is what we asked you to do in the morning, which is advance to the next day's presentation by clicking, if you click on the date and time, it will highlight to a blue color, creating connecting to a hyperlink, okay, which will bring you to this page with a drop-down menu for dates. You'll choose the very next day. It will list all of the sessions. Click on the very first session, and then you're going to just click through those presentations and ensure that they open. Another thing that this does when you advance to the next day is it also syncs, it will start the sync process. So it's syncing all of the files that have been uploaded that day from the speaker ready room to that meeting room. So if for any reason, any other reason to do this, it's to, at the very least, sync those files from the speaker ready room to the meeting room for the next day. Okay, so click through as many presentations as you can. And again, it's just, you open a presentation, you hit escape, it brings us to the white screen, you click next presentation. Okay, and then the very last thing will be just right-clicking on a push button at the bottom of the screen. And I apologize that I don't have a picture of this, but I will have a picture of it when we all are on site for the training on site. Okay, so some reminders is to not forget to unmute the mic and start the video before you begin your session. Like I said, you can leave the camera on. That's not a big deal because we're going to be using the Alt-A to unmute as opposed to bringing that toolbar back. So if you leave the camera on, we don't have to worry about bringing that toolbar back. We can just use Alt-A to unmute. And again, it's not necessary to mute the mic and stop the video when there's a remote presenter. Once the session has begun, just leave the mic and camera on for the duration. Make sure you hide that floating meeting toolbar. Pressing escape twice brings it back in case you need to use it. Okay. And do not join audio when joining Zoom on your personal device unless you are using headphones. It's really important. Okay. When a remote presenter is sharing the screen, the Zoom toolbar will appear at the bottom of the screen in the room. If you press Alt, it will make it disappear. It may return if somebody puts a chat in the chat panel, or sometimes it just, unfortunately, Zoom is not perfect. It's perfect when you chat with your friends, but when you're doing a conference, it's never completely perfect for us. And so it may return, but you don't feel like you have to continuously press that Alt button to make it disappear, particularly if it's interrupting the presenter. Okay, so viewing the Zoom meeting from your own device will allow you to see how the presenter looks to the virtual audience. Now, we will be using the built-in camera on the laptop for everyone to see the presenter. This is the most cost-effective way to do this, right? But it's not always the prettiest. So if you have somebody who is over 6 feet tall, we certainly don't want to get chin shots or chest shots. It's really just as simple as you are sitting at the head table, and that is where you will be stationed. In case there's issues, you don't have to keep running back and forth up to the lectern. You're going to be right there. So you're going to be looking at your own device, and you're going to be able to view how the virtual audience is viewing that on-site presenter. If it looks like they're really tall and you're getting a chin or a neck shot, simply just reach your arm over to the laptop lid and adjust it very easily. Just adjust it so that people can see their face, more of their face rather than the rest of their body. And again, you can see on your own personal device what that looks like. Okay, our software is designed with a safety feature to automatically share the screen whenever a presentation is launched in Zoom. So what this means is if someone comes in and they want to upload their presentation in the meeting room because they're running late and they've made a lot of changes, and you stop the share on the laptop at the lectern, thinking, well, now we can just upload their presentation. Well, as soon as you upload their presentation, you're going to have to preview it because that's also a safety default feature of our system. It's going to show that to the virtual audience. So if it's the second presenter that comes in and says, I need to upload my presentation, send them to the speaker ready room because they will have time to do that. And because we're networked, their file will go directly to the meeting room from the speaker ready room within a couple of minutes. So the only time we should be uploading a presentation in the meeting room is if it's an emergency because it's the first presenter who has not uploaded or made some changes. Okay, and then, and I will show you how to upload in the meeting room in just a second. So again, on your own device, make sure you rename yourself in the Zoom's participants panel to volunteer 104, 105, etc. Do not rename the lectern laptop. The lectern laptop is called Convex Podium, and that's how our virtual techs can recognize which laptop is the one being utilized in the meeting room. Okay, do not join audio on your own personal device unless you're using headphones. If you are on the laptop at the lectern and you hit escape and nothing happens, just click your mouse anywhere on the screen and then hit escape again. It's basically the computer trying to make that connection. Okay, and again, when leaving the Zoom mic unmuted during a remote presenter's presentation, please be aware of anything being said into the mics at the head table, as the virtual audience will be able to hear this. Now, we do offer a lovely feature of being able to use presenter view. If you all are familiar with that, you'll be able to, at the lectern, you'll be able to see all of your notes. You'll be able to see the slide coming up, but on the projection screen, everyone will see your presentation in full slideshow mode. This is a wonderful feature. To get out of a presentation that is in presenter view, you do have to hit escape twice. What does that do for us? Well, it brings the floating meeting tool back. So if somebody is using presenter view, you click escape twice to get out of their presentation, to get to the next presentation. It's going to bring you to that white screen where you can click next presentation, but it's also going to bring back the floating meeting toolbar. All you have to do is go over to more, click on it so it brings you the drop-down menu, and choose hide floating meeting controls. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for volunteering to assist us in the meeting rooms. Now I am going to take a look and show you how to, this is speaker ready room. So I'd also like to show you how to upload your presentation in the meeting rooms. Okay. So if there is nothing loaded, it will say file missing, click here to upload. If there is something loaded and they wanted to just replace that file, it would be grayed out letters that say click here to change. So to upload a presentation in the meeting room, you simply click on the letters file missing, click here to upload, or like I said, it would say click here to change. It brings up this box here. Put in your USB drive into the computer, click on browse. It will prompt you to choose a file. You choose your file, it loads it. Now here is the safety default feature that we have built into our system. You do have to preview this presentation before it will let you close this box. You can click on this close button all day long, but it's not going to let you do anything until you preview at least one slide to make sure that's definitely what you want to show and not pictures of your kids at Christmas. If somebody comes into the room and before the session has started and they say, oh gosh, I saw that my colleague was able to use presenter view. Can I do that too? Yes. If they click to the left of their last name and bring up this uploading box, here is where you can click the box for show my notes in PowerPoint. Okay, so we've chosen our file. We're going to preview the file. Let's say we've gone through the entire presentation and we found an error and a spelling error. It's just one little thing. Please let me do it. It'll just take a second, I promise. Okay, we're going to escape out of it and now click edit. That's going to open your presentation in PowerPoint. You'll make the change. They will make the change. And then they will click save. They will not go to file and to the drop-down menu to click save there. They will click the little floppy disk in the left-hand corner, which saves it to our system. And then you're going to click the X, which will close that box. And then back to our safety default feature, where you do have to now preview that presentation once more to make sure that it really did take your change. Okay, and once you do that, you can escape, and now you can click the close button. And that, my friends, is it. I know it seems like a lot. How's everyone feeling? Overwhelmed? I hope not too much. Thoughts? Oh, I've left everyone speechless. Now I'm nervous.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
My name's Tim. I just want to get an understanding of what's going on in the room. So there's a head table and a lectern.
That's right.
On the lectern, there's a laptop that you're providing.
Correct.
Connected via Wi-Fi?
No, with a hard line.
Cabled.
Yes. We never want to do Zooms on a Wi-Fi.
So for our laptop as well, would you like us to bring dongles if we have them?
So your laptop will not connect to anything but Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so all of that's connected on in each area. There's a room where the presenter can go to upload files or to have a bit of a chat. Is that correct?
That's right. So at the MCEC, there will be 2 speaker ready rooms, one on each floor. There will be one called SP 101 and then the other is called SP201.
Okay,
So there will be technicians in each of those rooms that will help presenters upload their presentation. And that is a different system with a different interface, but honestly, it's not that different from the uploading box that I showed you in the meeting room.
okay, no, that's good. And the last question is then for us as presenters, as volunteers, do we, you mentioned before we have an app. Do we need to load that app prior to getting there?
Yes, or you can load it when you get there as well.
And where would we get the app if we were going to load it prior?
So you would want to go to the iPhone. If you have an iPhone, it would be the Apple Store or the Google Play Store on a smartphone.
For which app?
For ISA 2023.
Okay, thank you. And for a laptop?
For the laptop, same. You could go to
Windows Store?
for the laptop. So for whether you have this as an app on your phone or you're opening it in a browser on your laptop, you do want to have your registration credentials available to you, because that's how you're going to log into the meeting app. And though you would be able to access the meeting app without your registration credentials, you would not be able to access the Join Now buttons.
Okay, I've just seen a text from Sally. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh, good,
Okay.
Tim.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good questions. Tim, do you have anything else?
No, that's great. Thank you very, very much, Tracy.
Does any of this seem too confusing to anyone? Does anyone have any questions?
I've just got one.
Yes.
Like, I think I followed most of it. I think the part that I just maybe lost the part was when you say, I know what you're saying, rename volunteer 1 and rename volunteer 2. Can you just show me like where you rename, like, you know, like what button you press?
Okay, so go ahead and look at your screen right now. Move your mouse around the screen so that you can see the toolbar at the bottom and click on participants. Find your name in the participant panel and click on the More button. If you just hover over and then it'll say rename. Do you see that, Rachel?
And without wanting to confuse you, Rachel, if you look at the blue square on your image with the 3 white dots, right click on that. And that will, sorry, left click, and that will also bring up a menu that has a rename option further down.
Yep, got it.
You can, there you go, you've done it.
I've done it. So.
Our first volunteer.
I know. Yeah, that was all the questions that I had. I think I followed the logic and you know what I mean, the buttons and yeah. Yeah.
So I do have my cheat sheet. Right now, I'm just going to share my screen with it, and just to make sure that it is completely accurate before I share the document, because I had to make a couple of changes. So let's just go over it together. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so before you join Zoom, if you have time, open every presentation to ensure it launches. Again, this is the cheat sheet, right? So this is the Cliff Notes. I didn't want to give too much detail in here because I want to try to fit it on one sheet. So you're going to start at the lectern laptop and join the Zoom after you have opened the presentations if you had time. You'll join the Zoom by pressing the blue Join Zoom icon. You'll deselect the chat preview. You're going to share screen, which will bring the floating meeting toolbar to the top. You'll click on the video. It says Start Video. Then you'll go over to the More in that floating meeting control bar and hide video panel, but leave your camera on. You'll go back to More, choose Share Sound, back to More, hide the floating meeting controls. You'll come down to the bottom of the session display where the film strip icon is located and click on that. So People can watch the acknowledgement of country and the social media slide as they enter the room. Once you have done that, that is priority. Then you're going to join the Zoom on your personal device using the same credentials that you use to register for the conference to log in. You can join audio on your own device only if you're using headphones. Do not turn on the camera, please. Rename yourself in the Zoom participants panel to volunteer CH2 or etc. Beginning the session, the walk-in loop is still playing. You're going to click Alt-A on the computer to unmute. If you want to make sure that it really did unmute, you can look at your own device and you should not see a microphone that's red with a line through it on the camera that's at the lectern laptop. If you do see a red microphone with a line through it, the Alt-A did not work. Maybe you accidentally hit something else. Try it again. Okay, so now the moderator goes up to the lectern. They want to read the acknowledgement of country slide, which is still up. They're going to use the arrow keys to advance through that walk-in loop to get to the beginning of the timings for the acknowledgement of country slide. You might have to, just inform them of that, let them know that. I think we're going to be passing on this recording to the chairs as well so that they understand it, but it might be good to remind them. And then when they're finished doing that, the chair will just simply click escape just once to get out of the walk-in loop. And then they'll start their intros and launch the first presentation by simply clicking on the presentation title. Okay, and then I have some little notes down here about using the laptop lid to adjust the virtual view of the presenter. Clicking Alt will make the bottom toolbar disappear during a remote presenter screen share, and clicking Alt-A will unmute Zoom. I see that I should probably, before I pass this on to you, maybe change all of this too.
Can I interrupt you as well, Tracy?
Please.
Can
Yeah.
you add the instructions without confusing people? Because some people may have a Mac. So obviously it's Alt-A on a PC, but if their personal device is a Mac, they're going to need.
So they actually will not be using that combination of keys on their own device, Sally. They'll
Oh, okay, pardon me.
Yeah. No problem. So they'll
Take
just
that back.
so they'll just be using Alt-A on the PC on the lectern laptop.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, they should stay, even if you join audio on your own personal device because you have headphones and you want to listen, don't unmute yourself. Leave your own personal device muted. So when you join a Zoom and you're prompted with a message that says join Zoom audio, and you click the button that says join Zoom audio, you can do that and stay muted, which is what you want to do. You don't want anyone hearing what you're saying. Some people choose not to join audio and listen through headphones because it makes them feel like they're disconnected to what's also happening in the room. So it's really your preference. If we've had plenty of these hybrid meetings where people have not used headphones and they simply just get a chat from the Convex Virtual Tech that says, we have an issue with sound in the room. It's your personal preference. So I think that my instructions are now complete enough for me to share them with you. So let me just go ahead and put this in the see if I can put this in the chat here. Let's see. Haven't done this here we go. File. Thanks for your patience, everyone. If anyone has any questions while we're waiting.
So very soon, hopefully this week, all volunteers will get some guidelines. You'll also get a recording of today's session. There'll be another session on the 21st if you'd like to come along for that one as well, the online one at 6:30. There'll be the in-person training from 7:30 to 8:30 on the Monday morning. Obviously, you're not all going to be there for that because not everyone's volunteering for the whole session. If there are any questions, after all you receive all the information, just send them through to admin@taza.org.au. If I can't answer them, I'll defer to Tracy. There'll be plenty of, I'll be walking around. Tracy's obviously, there's a couple of Convex staff, there's Aranex staff. Our new events manager will be there, Penny Toth. Yeah. You won't be on your own, although you will be in the session room. But the chairs will have also seen the training. Well, you won't be on the own in the session room either, actually, because there'll be online people and tech support available.
That's right. And the best way to access somebody for help is through your Zoom chat channel. You would just chat the Convex Virtual Tech directly and say, I need some help, and let them know what you need help with. And because your name will already be Volunteer 101, they'll know what room you're in, and you'll just need to tell them what the issue is, and we'll get on it right away. Unfortunately, Sally, it says that access to file restricted by your account admin. So I cannot pass my file through the chat, but I could pass it to you and you can, let's see if it'll do it. Let me do it now. Oh, maybe it will let me do it now.
Won't let you do it as the host?
No, it won't. But I'll tell you what, I'll send it to you right after this meeting ends. And if you could just send it out to everyone.
So there was that tip sheet there, plus you said there was a full document.
So if everyone is interested in the presentation that I just gave, and I can give it to everybody in a PDF format, I'm completely happy to do that.
Mm-hmm. Tracy, I've got hi Tracy, hi Sally, Carlos speaking here. I've got a question. Look, in the sort of emergency situation, like, I don't know, the laptop freezes or something like that, the lectern laptop freezes, we need to restart it. And chances are, quite minimal that this will happen. I imagine these are all pretty new laptop PCs, but you never know. I'm constantly restarting my own Mac.
Oh no, technology is not always our friend, Carlos. So go right ahead, continue.
Yeah. No, so essentially, how do we go about there? Because I imagine you'd have to, restart the laptop, but also boot some of the software to get into the conference.
Really good question.
Yeah.
Really good question. If something like that happens, or let's say all of a sudden the whole thing just freezes and now you're looking at the desktop, okay? So either because Zoom booted you out, Podium booted you out, the internet booted you out, and you either have to restart the computer or you're starting fresh on the desktop. There will be an icon in the middle of the screen. It's red, yellow, and blue, and it looks like a C. Let me see if I can find it in my presentation. And it says, click here to start Podium. And you click on that, and it will open right to the session that is supposed to be happening in that moment. Now, when that happens, you will have to rejoin the Zoom. So you'll have to click on the blue button again to join the Zoom, and you'll have to go through those quick set of settings, hiding the video panel and sharing the sound. But again, you'll have your cheat sheet right at the lectern, and you can just run through it really quickly.
Mm-hmm. And just on that, so the joining the Zoom button, will that be something? Is that within the Podium software, or is that?
It is. It's integrated.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi,
Thanks.
Tracy, I have just got a quick question. I'm in conversation with my friend who's texting me. She's also struggling with this. I think we weren't really clear about the notion of podium, the Zoom. So what you're saying is that on the at the lectern, logged in, the computer will be logged into an app called Podium. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And that's where everything is.
Mhm.
And I think that's what Uvisti you need to know. And that our personal laptops, all those Alt-A, all that other stuff, all happens on the lectern laptop, nothing to do with your personal laptop.
That's right. The
Right.
Alt-A, all of those configurations all
Yeah,
happen in the
that's good.
lectern laptop.
The personal laptop is just so that you are simulating a virtual attendance. Yeah.
Yes, and also utilizing the open line of communication
To
to
your
tech support.
perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
And
Just wanted
renaming
to clarify
yourself
that.
as renaming yourself as
As
volunteer.
volunteer. Yeah, got that. Thank
Tracy,
you.
can you hand the host back to me?
Well,
course.
just
There's
before,
a few
one more question.
questions.
One more question, if I could, just before.
Yes. Mhm.
Just building on Carlos's question. So when you reboot the laptop, it's Windows, I'm assuming, or is it Mac?
No, it's Windows.
Windows. There's no login for Windows.
No, not on these laptops. We will not have anything set to administrator controls or anything like that. It'll open right up.
Great, thank you.
Good question. And Jan, you had a really good point. I probably should have started with, and we're using our software called Podium, which is integrated with Zoom.
Can I just read out a few questions that are in chat because everyone might be thinking the same thing.
Okay.
One of them was, how do we log on to Zoom? But I feel like you've just covered that one anyway, correct?
So you won't have to log into Zoom on the lectern laptop. You just have to click join Zoom. And it joins to our Zoom accounts, our business Zoom account. So whatever Zoom is set to be hosting that particular meeting in that session room. To join the Zoom on your own personal device, the quickest way, and this actually is a really good point for whomever posed this question. If for some reason you are on your own personal device and you are struggling to get onto the meeting app, because let's say you can't remember what credentials you use to log in for registration, etc., you can still join that Zoom on your personal device by doing this. Go to the lectern laptop, click on, you have to have the floating meeting toolbar viewable, okay? And if you click on more, just see if I can you enable my screen sharing, Sally?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Give me a minute.
Yep. If you click on more in the floating meeting toolbar, you will find, it says meeting info in a drop-down menu. At the bottom of that drop-down menu, it says meeting info. So if you're on your own personal device and you have Zoom loaded, or even if you don't have it loaded as a desktop client, you can go to the browser, right? And just type in Zoom. I think it's zoom.us, I guess in Australia would it still be zoom.us? Okay, zoom.us. And then it will prompt you with a message that says, join a meeting. And you click yes. And then you'll simply put in that meeting info that you have found at the lectern laptop. So that's your workaround. If you're really struggling to join on the meeting app for some reason, just open up Zoom in a browser, go to the lectern laptop, have the meeting controls accessible, those floating meeting controls that are so darn pesky, and go to the more button. You'll see the drop-down menu at the very bottom. It'll say meeting info, and it'll give you the meeting ID and the meeting passcode, which is what you would enter on your personal device when it says join a meeting.